Good morning, church. Will y'all stand and sing with us? Chase me down, you seek me out. How can I be lost when you have called me found? You chase me down, you seek me out. How can I be lost when you have called me found? You chase me down, you seek me out. Like a tidal wave crashing over me, rushing into me. Your love is fierce, like a hurricane that I can't escape, tearing through the atmosphere. Your love is fierce. Your love is fierce.
Morning, church. So glad y'all joined us this morning here at the fort. I want to share a psalm that I read this week in my Bible reading. I've just been thinking about it all week long, and it comes from Psalm 5, and this is David. He says, "Listen to my words, Lord. Consider my lament. Hear my cry for help, my King and my God. For to you I pray. In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning, I lay my request before you and wait expectantly. For you are not a God who is pleased with wickedness. With you, evil people are not welcome. The arrogant cannot stand in your presence. You hate all who do wrong. You destroy those who tell lies. The bloodthirsty and the deceitful, you, Lord, detest." I read that and I was like, whoa, I got some work to do, right? The arrogant cannot stand in your presence. I've been arrogant. I can be arrogant. You can ask Anna. I've done wrong. You hate all who do wrong. You destroy those who tell lies. I've told lies. The bloodthirsty and deceitful, Lord, you detest. I've been deceitful, right? But thankfully, the next verse says this, and this is David's heart, and this is where our heart should be. But I, by your great love, can come into your house in reverence. I bow down towards your holy temple. Lead me, Lord, in your righteousness. I am so grateful that it is not by our love that we are saved and welcomed into his house, but it is by his love that we are saved and we are welcomed into his house. Because, right, our love is arrogant, right? It can do wrong. It can tell lies. It can be deceitful. But his love is pure and true and righteous. So I'm so thankful that it's by his love that we are saved, his love that we are welcomed in his house. So we're going to continue, we're going to sing, and we're going to sing these songs to a God that is just so great, and his love is so great for us. Let's continue.
Greater than the great I place I reached is at your feet, then I've done it all. And if the best thing that I've seen is your glory, then I've seen it all. Your love has changed my life, forever satisfied. God, you are my everything. If the highest place I reached is at your feet, then I've done it all. And if the best thing that I've seen is your glory, then I've seen it all. Your love has changed my life, forever satisfied. You are my everything. And if one word is the only thing you speak, then I've heard it all. And if I feel your heart and never see your hand, I still have it all. No treasure of this life could ever satisfy. God, you are my everything. God, you are my everything. God, you are my. What a God, what a God. What a God, what a God. What a God, what a God. It's who you are. What a God, what a God. If the highest place I reached is at your feet, come on. And if the best thing that I've seen is your glory, then I've seen it all. Your love has changed my life, forever satisfied. God, you are my everything. And if one word is the only thing you speak, then I've heard it all. And if I feel your heart and never see your hand, I still have it all. No treasure of this life could ever satisfy. God, you are my everything. God, you are my everything. God, you are my everything. The highest place I reached is at your feet, then I've done it all. And if the best thing that I've seen is your glory, then I've seen it all. Your love has changed my life, forever satisfied. God, you are my everything. And if one word is the only thing you speak, then I've heard it all. And if I feel your heart and never see your hand, I still have it all. No treasure of this life could ever satisfy. God, you are my everything. God, you are my everything. God, you are my everything.
Dear Lord Jesus, I thank you for waking me up this morning and putting the breath in my lungs to come and worship with all these amazing people this morning, Lord. I pray over this sermon we're about to hear and that we really apply it to our lives this week. I pray over all my brothers and sisters this morning. We love you, we cherish you, and it's in your name I pray. Amen.
Good morning, Fort family. We're so thankful that you chose to worship with us today. If you're visiting for the first time, welcome, and we're so glad that you're here. If you'd like to get connected, you'll find a connection card in the pew in front of you. You can use it to share some basic information so that we can get to know you, or you can use it to let us know how we can be praying for you. Our staff and elders pray over these requests every week. And when you're finished, just drop the card in one of the boxes in the back. We'd love the chance to connect with you. Join us on Saturday, July 18th from 8 to 11 a.m. as we serve our community by helping prepare and refresh the Easter Seals West Georgia facility. Together, we'll work to create a clean, welcoming space where the children and adults they serve can continue to learn, grow, and thrive. No special skills are needed, just a willing heart and a desire to serve. Sign up in the Church Center app and come make a difference with us. For the month of July, our partners at Brownback are collecting donations of green beans. Donations can be dropped off in the foyer of our Mount Zion campus or in the Welcome Center at our Eastern Heights campus. All donations are greatly appreciated. And one of the easiest ways to stay connected with everything happening here at the Fort is through the Church Center app. There, you can listen to past sermons, keep up with upcoming events, and find ways to get involved in our ministries. And if you'd like to support the ministry here at the Fort, you can give online through the app or place your gift in one of the giving boxes at the back. Thank you for your generosity and for being a part of what God is doing here. That's all for today, Fort family. Have a great day.
Good morning. All right. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask you to, we're not going to do what we normally do, where I ask you, and then you kind of, and then, all right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to be strong out the gate. You guys ready? All right, what's our mission statement here? I said I wasn't going to ask you again. It was not bad. It was not bad. You know, some of you folks may be fairly new around here. Maybe we haven't reviewed that enough. But our mission statement here at the Fort Church, we boiled it down to just a few words: revive and restore. Maybe you say it back to me again. Revive and restore. Very good, very good. Now, the mission of every church is the same. It is to make disciples. That is the mission that God gave, that Jesus gave to the disciples to pass down to the church. That is to go and to introduce people to Jesus, call them to follow Him, and then teach them to obey His commands, teach them to follow Him. And so that's the mission of every church. And there's all kinds of instructions in the New Testament about how we should do that and help one another. But we've boiled it down to this, just a few words. It actually comes from a bumper sticker that Garrett made. You guys, some of y'all remember Garrett, right? Garrett used to be our worship pastor. Garrett now attends at Mount Zion location. He made this bumper sticker. It's a big R-E, and then it has Vive and Store. So revive, restore. And he put that on his truck, and we were looking at that and then thinking about the history of our church and thought, man, that's a good mission statement. If we're going to boil down our mission statement, that would be a good mission statement for the Fort. And you may think, well, why? Well, let me first ask you this. It's a follow-up question. You did well on the first part. So here's the follow-up. What is our verse that goes with revive and restore? John 10:10. John 10:10. I've got it pulled up right here. John 10:10 says, and this is the words of Jesus. He says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." Right? And maybe old version says abundant life, right? I come that they may have life, revive, right? Revive is bringing life, and restoration to the full. And so what we want to see is in people's lives is we want to see them meet Jesus. Holy Spirit enters their life, brings life, resurrection life to them, and they begin that resurrection life not when they die, right? It's not out there in the future someday. It is now, today. It begins. That abundant life, the full life begins today when we meet Jesus. And so that's our mission statement. Now, I'll give you a little bit of history of the Fort, just so you can appreciate where we've come from and how we landed on that mission statement. Because for us, it's not just about that when Jesus enters into a life, He brings life and restoration, but also we believe that impacts communities and institutions like the church. And so the Fort was born in 2011. It was a church plant out of Golden Acres Baptist Church. It was planted down in Fort Mitchell, so there's where the name comes from. And it was first services were held in Mount Olive Elementary School. Who attended at Mount Olive Elementary School? We got one hand, 2, 3. You got a few around the room. Okay, a few folks. So a lot of new people here. All right. So the goal was at that time over the years, depending on who's in office, they have these ramp-ups at Fort Benning, right? We're going to ramp up the number of troops that are there stationed at Fort Benning. We're going to scale it down, ramp up. And it was a time when they were ramping up, and the idea was that this church was going to really try and target military families that were living on that side of the river down there. And began and had great success and reached a lot of families, but almost from the beginning, it wasn't just military families. The church almost from the beginning had this ministry to or attraction for people who were in very, very difficult, dark spots, people who were on the streets in addiction, people who are coming out of incarceration, people who were in really low places that felt very far from God, and the fort had just a knack for welcoming those folks in, introducing them to Jesus, and helping them to walk with Jesus. And so that's been a history of our church almost from the very beginning. And so over time, as the ministry continued to grow there, the fort poured lots of resources into Mount Olive School, renovated space, made spaces really good for church work, but also spaces so they could be used for the school, and made it better for the school that met there. But over time, trying to find a permanent home for the fort, there was a small Baptist church up Highway 116 called Sunderland Baptist Church. And they had just had a few folks left there, and the association said, maybe we can get these two groups together. We've got a thriving ministry that's seeing people saved and baptized, and then we have a ministry that has a legacy and has resources in this building, and maybe there's a way to get these folks together for the good of the kingdom. Do I have any people who were former members of Sunderland Baptist Church here? Good. All right. So the first meeting of the fort in Sunderland, they came together and they met at the church there, and they began to talk about ways that they could partner together, and they began to go look around the building, and the worship team, maybe Garrett was involved in this. They said, well, we'll need to move this modesty rail that's in front of the choir loft, and you can imagine an old church has a choir loft, right? And the modesty rail is just that railing. You know why it's called a modesty rail, right? Okay, and so they said, we need to take that down, so we put the drums there and put the guitar there, and the folks at Sunderland said, whoa. No. You're not moving nothing. Y'all going back to school. And so they did. And then a short time later, Sunderland decided to close their doors, which is something that happens every week in America. A church has its last service. There are churches all over America today that are having their last service. They'll close the doors, turn off the lights, and there'll be no more church in that place. They'll sell it. It could become whatever, right? So the local association decided the church gave the building to the association. The association then gifted that building to the fort that came in and did tons of renovations in that space, and built it back up and made it a great place for worship. And the ministry just really thrived there. Hundreds of people were baptized in that place. How many of you ever attended at Sunderland? All right, a few more. Okay, all right. And over time, as the ministry continued to grow there, they developed a relationship with a group of people in downtown Phoenix City at First Congregational Christian Church. It's kind of behind the Central Activity Center there in Phoenix City. And small little building, small facility, but there was a few senior adults left there, and they were trying to figure out the future for their church, and they said, well, if you can get some more people to come to church here, you can have it. You can have the building, you can have our bank account, you can have it. And so the fort began a service there, and it went really well there in that building. And the people who were there were just amazing, open-handed, generous, and wanted kingdom work to continue in that neighborhood. That was their desire, not to have control of things, and they wanted kingdom work to continue there. And wonderful families. Most of them are deceased at this point, the ones that were there when we got there. Miss Neely Scott used to come in. Miss Jean, you remind me of Miss Neely, all right? Because Miss Neely used to come in and on her walker, and her son, Scotty Scott, would walk her in, and they'd sit right down on the front row. And over there at Phoenix City, the stage was up about this high, but the chairs were right there. Like, we packed every chair in that room that we could. It was packed out in that little room. And so I'm like right on top of the people. And Miss Neely would come and she'd sit right in the front, right in the middle, and she loved like Southern gospel Christian music, and Scotty would sing in quartets and all that. They just loved that kind of music. That was not the music we were doing, right? That was not it. But they were so supportive and so loving and so generous. And over the years, I've had the privilege and the honor of speaking at most of their funerals as they've gone on to be with the Lord. It was about that time that the church decided, hey, we need to consolidate for different reasons. We need to consolidate in one of these locations. And so they decided, hey, there's more people in Phoenix City, more people to reach there. Let's consolidate in Phoenix City. And as they're having those conversations, their group of people are down at Sunderland, and this is the way I hear the story. So if any of you are there, you can correct me later. But they're meeting there about some stuff, and a guy walks in the building named Roy Jones, not the boxer. Roy Jones walks in the building, and he says, hey, I want to buy this building. They said, what? Right? There's no for sale sign up or anything like that. There's a guy who had started a ministry in that area and was growing young ministry. And so they said, well, we're actually thinking about consolidating. So they worked out a deal to lease to buy that building at Sunderland to Roy Jones and Potter's House Ministry. It's still there today. And they came in, did really, really well there, and the fort consolidated in downtown Phoenix City. And so already there's just too many people in that little building. I mean, it's just too many. And that's about the time that I come along, and which was a surprise to me. Okay, was not expecting for God to move us to the fort, but thankful, so thankful that over 10 years ago that God made that move in my life and our family. And got there, and immediately as a new pastor seeing, wow, there's not enough space here. I mean, new people are coming in every week. We're packing out this room twice on Sunday. There's no space for kids. I mean, it's just, terrible. Tiny little rooms for the kids, and we got to do something. And so I'm looking all over Phoenix City for space. I'm going in abandoned buildings and some scary situations. I've been in that. Been in the skating rink. Some of y'all might have went when it was open. I've never been when it was open. I've only been in it through going through a broken window. I didn't break it. Lots of spaces like that, and it just weren't really a lot of opportunities. And so I asked the elders. I said, like, where can I be looking? Where can I be looking? What are you guys comfortable with? And we were actually renting a house not too far from here, and I would cut up through here on 17th Street going to Phoenix City every day and passing this building, and looking at it going, man, this big building, you could kind of tell there wasn't much happening here, that it was deteriorating. And so I just got curious and met the pastor and started thinking about, maybe we could move a group of people and start a service over here, help revitalize this place. Because God's obviously using the fort to revitalize not just people, but churches and institutions. And so I asked the elders, I said, hey, like, where can we be looking? They said, well, here's where you can be looking. And it was basically a triangle that went from that downtown Phoenix City area south along the river and out towards Fort Mitchell and Seal. There's where you can go. Like, well, that's limiting, all right? But here's the reason. They said no Smith Station, no Columbus, absolutely no Columbus. And I want you to know why they said that. Because of their heart. They never wanted to appear, and if you know the geography and the demographics, you'll understand this. They didn't want any appearance that the fort was going to try to move towards what was easier or what was more affluent. They wanted to make sure that the heart of the fort stayed the same, that it was all about reaching down to people who were in need and needed to be lifted up. And the geography was a symbol of that. Talked to one of the local denomination leaders here who was talking to some people about coming in and planning churches in Columbus, and had some church planners come in from other places and thinking about planning in Columbus. And he was telling them how in our denomination we've got 50-something churches, but only 4 of them are south of Macon Road. And so we need churches down there. And all of the guys said, well, I was thinking about planting in Midland or Harris County. Why? More money in it. They had more money in it. So they didn't want any appearance of that. And so I still was talking to the guy here. I said, we should at least just go over and you guys just come look at the building. Come look at this building, right? And this building was in rough shape. And you may look at it today and go, it's still in rough shape, all right? But it was in really, really bad shape. They had not met in here in this room during the winter for over 7 years because the heat did not work in here and they couldn't figure out how to get the heat fixed. The children's building looked like like a zombie movie, and so anyway, I said, hey, you guys come look. They said, no. And so finally one day I got them. I said, just come look. And I remember I pulled in the parking lot, and anybody know Mark Riddle? All right, Mark. I remember Mark pulling in, and he's just, I don't know, he's angry. He's just not happy to be here. I mean, he's a true blue Alabama boy. Like, he doesn't want to cross that river and come over here and go, like, and so he's not happy. And so we go walk through here, and there's over 45,000 square feet here, and a lot of it's in really rough shape. And you go room after room after room after room, and you walk through that daycare facility back there, and there's this overwhelming feeling among the guys. Somebody's got to do something. Like, there's just a few people here. Like, somebody has to do something. And so we got back in our vehicles and heading home, and my phone rings. It's Mark. And Mark goes, well, here's how I think we ought to do the Welcome Center. We'll open up here, and here's we'll have the coffee and donuts, and we'll do the parking like this. And I'm like, okay. Because they all had the sense like somebody needs to do something. It was such a big project. Instead of just moving a group of people over here, we said, all right, let's see if we can move the whole congregation. Let's all do it together. And the congregation was excited about it, and we relocated over to here. And about the same time, our deal with Potter's House and Roy Jones was coming due, that they were going to buy the building. They had leased for a year and were going to buy it. And we looked at that, and we looked at the money that we owed on the renovations on Sunderland, and looked at what Roy and Potter's House owed us, and we just came to an agreement that we don't need to try and get everything that we can out of them. We've got some debt, we need to pay it off, so we came to an agreement, let's drop the price so that it makes it easier they're not saddled with more debt than they need to, and we're not taking on, just moving money from the kingdom to kingdom, it just doesn't make any sense. And so we're able to drop the price of that by $50,000 and made it easier for them to get in there, and they're doing great today. And the building in downtown Phoenix City, we were able to gift to Christ Community Phoenix City, which is now called Village Church, who's running 2 services there and doing ministry in the schools and food pantry and all the things that we were doing. They just, so it's not like we moved and left nothing, right? And so I'm looking around, I'm going, God's using the fort to do something, beyond just making disciples. He's reviving and restoring in this, in institutions, right? In the church. And so my eyes, once you see something, you just start looking, you see it all over the place. And I see it all over the place. There's churches everywhere that are declining and dying and hurting. And so I've always wanted us to have a heart to, like, if there's a church that's in need, if we could partner with a church and help a church, I think it'll be good for the kingdom, right? And so not too long after that, Mount Zion, which is a church that I went to when I was a teenager, their pastor left, and they had a group of senior adults, basically, that were left there. And they were trying to figure out what their next steps were. Were they gonna hire another pastor? They probably couldn't afford a full-time pastor. Or were they gonna do this, that, and actually, I thought, well, I needed to get them to partner with somebody, and tried to push them towards that, and didn't really work out. And so then I went over and I had a meeting with the 2 people who were basically taking care of everything. Right? When we came to Eastern Heights. There's the pastor, and then, a group of people. Frank was here. Frank. Charlie was here. Anybody else was Eastern Heights before it got here? All right. Okay. All right. And so, but one of the men, Billy Ellis, who now attends at Mount Zion, Billy was the deacon. He was the treasurer. He was the sound man. He was cutting the grass. He was, it was just everything. And there was those two people at Mount Zion who were doing everything. Morris was the man's name. Andra was the woman's name. And went and sat down with them for a minute, and it moved really fast. Like, I was giving them all kinds of ideas, and they just said, yeah, okay. And so I met with them on one Wednesday night with the group. It was 15 or so people, and they asked me a few questions. I gave them all kinds of crazy ideas about how we do this, and and I was just I don't know if we should do this. Like, this is a lot, right? Taking on a whole nother big facility, and that responsibility, and do we have the resources and the money and the people, and so I'm meeting with them on that Wednesday night, and they're asking me questions, and one of the gentlemen, Joe Lucas, he's passed now, great guy, war hero. His wife is still living, still with us. She's 95, Miss Dorothy. And Joe says, y'all paying your bills? I said, yes, sir, we're paying our bills, and we got this much money in the bank. He said, let's vote. I said, what? And so we entered into this partnership with Mount Zion, and a group of you, some of you in here agreed to go over there for a time, for a number of months or years. Some of you are still serving over there in helping with the kids as we've worked over these years to continue the work of revitalization there. And I wasn't really sure exactly what that was going to look like or what God was going to do with that. It's been wonderful to minister to the people who were there, to serve those senior adults, and I hope that some of you have the same appreciation that I do. That as we've been able to form these partnerships with these legacy churches, the people who are there, we get to serve and love and be family to them in a place that they're familiar with, in a place that some of them, like, they gave up a vacation to give to the building fund. They put off buying a car to build these buildings, right? And to love them, and they were so open-handed and generous and saying, we want the gospel to continue to go forward in this place. And Mount Zion has a 200-year history. It's been there for 200 years. There wasn't nothing out there 200 years ago. That was a country. Right? That's like a different town. And they wanted it to continue. They wanted the gospel to continue to go forward in that place. And we get to, I hope that you have an appreciation for that. And so, wasn't sure exactly what that was gonna be. And I can't remember exactly in the timeline, and I was trying to figure out this morning, Chuck, but between, was our partnership with Family in Christ before the Verge? Yeah, that's what I was trying to get the timeline right. And so, not knowing exactly what was going to happen at Mount Zion, I formed a friendship with Pastor Javier. And they were meeting in a storefront down kind of in front of the Walmart and on Airport Thruway. They had been there for 8-9 years, something like that. And our friendship developed, and they are packed into this little space, and basically we said, hey, why don't you come share this space with us? Just come share this space. Not like, I want to be a landlord, you be the tenant. Like, no. Come and make this your home with us. And that has been such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing. And they took it to heart, and they treat that building like it's their home. And of course, they've done tons of renovations over there. It's just been amazing. And that relationship with them is incredible. And if you don't know, in our 9:30 service at Mount Zion, that their worship team, their music team, leads the worship there. Used to be that Sam and Anna and the rest of the group would come over. Yeah, they're at Mount Zion. They come over here, and we were talking about, hey, do we need to have a second service at Eastern Heights? Because sometimes it gets a little crowded in here, and this is kind of how it works in church. It'll get a little crowded in here, and folks would go, I don't be looking for a parking space, and it'll go down a little bit, and then it'll get a little crowded again. We've watched that happen here over the years, and we probably should have done a second service a long time ago. I was talking to Javier. I said, if we have to do that, would you guys lead the worship in the first service. He said, let's just do it now. It'd just be easier. We don't have to move microphones around, all that stuff. And so they began to do that, and it's awesome. Like, our group is amazing, incredible, phenomenal. And their group is just as good. It's just they're so good, and they just love the people. They don't treat it like, hey, we come in and we sing and we leave. They are treating it like they are part of the fort at Mount Zion, and I love it. And they are growing and thriving. And when I get back over to Mount Zion after the service today, I will not have a place to park. All right. It's just the truth of it. They continue to grow week by week, reaching the community. And then after that, blessed to form a friendship, and had a friendship, but developed it even more with Pastor Chuck, who is pastor of the Verge Church. And just really watching Chuck and just seeing his clear calling and his gifts, and just praying for God. I want you to be able to just use Chuck in a powerful way. And, how could we work together? And of course, that led to us bringing the Verge and the Fort together. And I'm so thankful for that. Having you Verge people, us all together as one family, but having Chuck as a ministry partner is so such a blessing, life-giving to me. And I hope to you. I know it is. So that's the story of how we got to where we are today. There's a little bit more to it, if you know. We've had our worship nights at Morningside Baptist over the last couple of years, and our partnership with them, our ministry with them, is that 2.5 years ago, they went through a really tough time as a church. They had a lot of conflict in the church, and pastor left, and a lot of people left at one time, and it's really tough situation. And they reached out to us for some music help, and one thing led to another, and we sent a team. All of us went there to help them basically as a transition for a number of months, to help them get through this difficult time, to hopefully lead them through God's help towards greater health and unity. And that's exactly what we've seen over the last couple of years. And a year ago, we all came to the decision together that we should continue the partnership on into the future. And so that's why I am on Sunday mornings. I'm at Mount Zion at 9:30, and then at 10:30-ish, really 10:45 or so. 11? Okay, Sam's nodding his head. I get to Morningside just in time to preach there, and then I come over here, and I love it. I just absolutely love it, and I think nothing to do with me at all, because I can see how it's got nothing to do with me. I just have this really cool seat to watch it. Like, I got the greatest seat in the house to watch it. But to watch how God has provided healing and unity and stability at Morningside, to watch how week after week new people walk into this building and are helped, right? People who are in dark places come, and like so many churches, they gotta go, like, let's go find them, let's go seek them out. Like, hurting people walk in our doors every week. Like, open your eyes to it, grab a hold of them, love them, right? Because it's happening every week here. To see what God's done in the relationship between the Fort and Family in Christ, and to watch all the growth at Family in Christ, it's really amazing. In the last year here, and some of those numbers are from Mount Zion as well, but just the Fort, from connection cards only, there's been over 200 people who have signed on the connection card. This is my first time coming to the Fort. First time visit, over 200. There's 200 and something people in this room right now, all right? That's a lot of people visiting. That's a lot of opportunity to introduce people to Jesus. All right? Now, those are just people who filled out a card. So there's a lot more than that, right? 50 or so people put down that they want to come home and recommit their life to Jesus. We've seen 40-something people in the last year, there's probably closer to 50 after last week, be baptized, give their life to Christ and be baptized. You guys, most of you have seen these baptisms, but I had Mary put together a little montage so we could show them at the other churches because they don't always get to see them. But we'll go ahead and watch it because it's fun to see them again anyway. So just a few of them, all right? Do we have that? We do. And then there are the ways that the building is open to 12-step groups. Narcotics Anonymous, Traumanon. There is Brown Bag of Columbus that serves hundreds of senior adults and helps them with groceries every year. You know that Brown Bag has worked out of this facility, this building, for over 40 years. When the fort got here and we tried to figure out like where are the kids going, you know, because the Brown Bag was meeting over there in a portion of that building that was in such rough shape over there, the kids' building, and like where are we going to put the kids? Well, this building back here was built for kids. It's got the nice big classrooms and it's just built for that. It just makes sense to put the kids over there, but it was in such rough shape, and the Brown Bag was meeting there, and so I met with Miss Vilma and Miss Gail at that time, and told them, hey, we'd love to use this space for kids. We'd like to move you guys down here. You actually have some more space than you do now. And Vilma started to have like tears in her eyes. I'm like, what? She said, we thought you were going to kick us out. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? And so, families count. Bright futures, right? God is using these efforts. Now, revive and restore. When Jesus said these words, the context of it is this. The chapter before, he had healed a man who was born blind. And it's the cool story where Jesus spits in the dirt and makes some mud and puts it on the guy's eyes. And you're like, well, this is weird. And he has him go wash and he can see. And we won't get into all that. But this guy's born blind, and now he can see. So the community hears about it, and so the leaders of the religious leaders, the leaders of the synagogue, they call him in, and they say, what happened? He said, well, this guy Jesus told me to make this, told me to go wash after he put the mud on my face, and now I can see. I was blind, now I can see. And they said they were threatened by Jesus. They already decided they didn't like Jesus. He was threatened. Their power was threatened. Their prophet was threatened by him, and so they basically said, no, you're lying. And so they called his parents in. They said, hey, is this your son? Was he born blind? Yes, that's our son. He was born blind. Well, what happened? They said, we don't know what happened. Leave us out of it, because they already see that he was mad, right? So they called the son back in. They said, now you need to confess and tell the truth about what happened. He said, all I know, I was blind, now I can see, and Jesus did it. All right? And they pressed him on it, and they pressed him on it, and we want to know more about him. And basically, he finally gets tired and jabs back at him. You want to be his followers too, right? And they say this to him: you were steeped in sin from your birth. Get out. Not just get out of the doors of this room. These are the leaders of the synagogue. This is the leaders of the Jewish community. Not just get out of this room. Get out of your community. You're no longer accepted here. Get out. This vulnerable guy just got his sight, right? Get out. These are the religious leaders. And that's the context where Jesus begins to, after he meets the guy again and speaks to him and asks him if he believes, and the guy says, yeah, I believe, because you healed me. And the Pharisees, because of something Jesus says, they said, well, you think we're blind? You think we're blind to the truth? And Jesus says to them in chapter 9, verse 41, if you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, your guilt remains. Now that's a good word for all of us, not just in the context of what I'm speaking about today, but you just carry this forward. If you were blind and you didn't know and you're ignorant, you got an excuse. Bad thing is you're in this room this morning. You're not blind. You're not ignorant because you've heard the truth. And we're without excuse. But he gives this to these religious leaders. He says, if you're blind, you not be guilty of sin. But now that you claim you can see, and they claim that they knew the truth, he says, your guilt remains. And then he begins to contrast himself with them. And he gives what's called the Good Shepherd discourse. And he talks about the gate for the sheep pen and the Good Shepherd. And he basically says, I'm the gate. Now, shepherds would bring if they were near town, they'd bring their sheep in at night. And there'd be a great big pen for the sheep, and all the shepherds would bring their sheep in there, and they'd close the gate, and they'd leave a guard over the sheep. And then in the morning, the shepherds would come, and they'd come and get their sheep. And the way they do it, they didn't go in and check the brand and then pull them by the tail out. No, they would give their whistle, or they'd say, here sheep, or whatever. It's like pig calling or something. But their sheep knew their voice. They knew their call. And they would follow, their sheep would follow out, and they'd go out into the pasture. And Jesus says that I'm the gate. I'm the gate that lets them go in and out, protects them. There's also the idea that when they're out in the wilderness, out in the countryside, that there's no pen, but what shepherds would do is they'd try and get them up towards some kind of rock face or something where they'd be protected at least from one side. And then the shepherd would then lay himself down for the night in between the sheep and whatever danger might come their way, wolves, thieves, whatever, and would be there in case something came. And that's where Jesus says that the difference between him and these religious leaders who are false, who are the thieves, who are the ones coming and actually stealing and killing and destroying, he says, they're like hired men. Let me just read it to you. In verse 11, right after our verse, it says, I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. Those Pharisees, the leaders of the synagogue, are motivated by pride, power, profit. And so they can do the cost analysis, right? My life versus these sheep I don't own. And they go, I'm out of here. And Jesus says, not so with me. Jesus is not motivated by pride, power, and profit. Jesus is a shepherd who owns the sheep. And he not just owns them, he loves them. And he's willing to lay his life down for them. And you think, well, gosh, he lays his life down for them. He gets killed by the wolf. Well, the wolf just steps over him and then eats the sheep. Well, Jesus is not just a shepherd. He is the shepherd. he goes on to say, he said, I'm the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. I'm going to skip over this verse and skip down to verse 17. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life only to take it up again. No one takes it from me. I lay it down of my own accord. Jesus is not defeated by a more powerful enemy. The wolf does not come against Jesus and overpower him. The thief does not come against Jesus and overpower him. Death, sin does not come against Jesus and overpower him. Jesus willingly lays down his life for you, taking the stealing, taking the killing, taking the destruction, all of it absorbed into himself once and for all. The teeth are removed from the wolf. The power is removed from the thief. The sting is removed from the grave. All of it absorbed into Jesus, who can raise himself back up. The thief is done away with. It comes against Jesus, who willingly laid down his life. All of the thief's power is gone. And Jesus, in power, loves, protects, and leads his flock. Now Jesus says to them in verse 16, I have other sheep that are not of this pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice. I have other sheep that are not of this pen. He's talking to this community, his Jewish community, but he's saying there are more. And I want you to hear it this morning. Jesus has more than us. We can look around at our partner churches and we can say, yeah, there's a sheep pen on Double Churches Road. And it's got 2 different pens that meet at different times, right? And the pens look different, right? They got different kinds of music or different languages spoken, and the sheep look a little different kinds of wool, right? But they've got one shepherd. Looks a little different over at Morningside, but they got one shepherd. And that's not Matt Stevens. It's Jesus Christ. One flock, one shepherd. Now, it's not just the people in these rooms either. It's those out there that need to know that these gates are not just for our protection, but they are open for them to come in. That Jesus is a gate not just protecting us, but he is a gate that is open to them. And you'll be his voice, you'll be his hands, his feet, to call them to come and follow him, to serve them and love them and bring them into the fold. That's us, church. And he wants you to know there's more out there. More who will know his voice just like you know his voice. And come into his protection. God has made us a part of a wonderful thing. Now, before I close, because I think I just got to go back and make sure that nobody leaves ignorant. Okay? I don't want you to have any excuse leaving today. Jesus says there's a thief that comes to steal, to kill, and destroy. You know that. Whether you know Jesus or not, you know there's a way of life that is constantly taking. It's taking your joy, it's taking your peace, it's taking your relationships. There's an enemy who wants to take that, wants to take anything in you that could glorify God and look like Jesus, wants to remove it. And sometimes it's a thief that's subtle and quiet, the one that sneaks into your garage at night and takes some tools and you don't miss it until the next month, right? That's the stuff that you're consuming and you think it's not that bad, and over time it grows in you to anger, to greed, to lust, right? This subtle thief who's stealing and destroying your joy and your peace over time. And then there's the violent thief, the one who busts down the door with a gun. And y'all seen him. Many of you have experienced him, who destroyed your life. And at the time, you thought, for good. There's nothing left of me. There's no hope for me. And then you heard the voice of Jesus. You heard the voice of Jesus calling you. The thief no longer has power. What he took from you, I can give back. I can give you life and restoration because he died. He took the wounds of the thief, of the destroyer on the cross. And he says, all those who trust in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. I don't want you to leave ignorant today. All right? Now that you see, you can believe. Trust in Jesus today. Hear his voice. Follow him. Let's pray. Father, thank you that we have the Good Shepherd in Jesus Christ. Thank you that we have the love of you, the Father, the salvation that comes through your Son. God, we thank you today that we have a church family. God, we're so blessed. I thank you for the people in this room and the other rooms, God, that you've given them to each other and to me to love. God, I pray that we would make every effort to support one another, to love one another, to protect one another. And God, we would make sure that the world knows that these doors are open, that the doors of your kingdom are open, and that you are the way through. God, and help us to be bold to